Daily Words of God. Job is once more blessed by God and is never again accused by Satan. Among the utterances of Jehovah God are the words that, "You have not spoken of me the thing that is right, as my servant Job has." What was it that Job had said? It was what we talked about previously, as well as the many pages of words in the book of Job that Job is recorded as having spoken. In all of these many pages of words, Job never once has any complaints or misgivings about God. He simply awaits the outcome. It is this waiting which is his attitude of obedience, as a result of which, and as a result of the words he said to God, Job was accepted by God. When he endured trials and suffered hardship, God was by his side, and although his hardship was not lessened by God's presence, God saw what he wished to see and heard what he wished to hear. Every one of Job's actions and words reached the eyes and ears of God. God heard and he saw, and this is fact. Job's knowledge of God and his thoughts about God in his heart at that time, during that period, were not actually as specific as those of the people of today, but in the context of the time. God still recognized all that he had said, because his behavior and the thoughts in his heart and what he had expressed and revealed were sufficient for his requirements. During the time that Job was subjected to trials, that which he thought in his heart and resolved to do showed God an outcome, one that was satisfactory to God, and afterward God took away Job's trials. Job emerged from his troubles, and his trials were gone and never again befell him. Because Job had already been subjected to trials, and had stood firm during these trials, and completely triumphed over Satan, God gave him the blessings that he so rightfully deserved. As recorded in Job chapter 42, verses 10 and 12, Job was blessed once again, and was blessed with more than the first instance. At this time, Satan had withdrawn, and no longer said or did anything, and from then onward, Job was no longer interfered with or attacked by Satan, and Satan no longer made accusations against God's blessings of Job. Job spends the latter half of his life amid God's blessings. Although his blessings of that time were only limited to sheep, cattle, camels, material assets, and so on, the blessings that God wished to bestow upon Job in his heart were far more than this. At the time, were there recorded what kind of eternal promises God wished to give Job? In his blessings of Job, God did not mention or touch upon his end, and regardless of what importance or position Job held within God's heart, in sum, God was discerning in his blessings. God did not announce Job's end. What does this mean? At that time, when God's plan had yet to reach the point of the proclamation of man's end, the plan had yet to enter the final stage of his work. God made no mention of the end, merely bestowing material blessings upon man. What this means is that the latter half of Job's life was passed amid God's blessings, which was what made him different to other people. But like them, he aged, and like any normal person, the day came when he said goodbye to the world. Thus is it recorded that, "So Job died, being old and full of days." Job chapter 42, verse 17. What is the meaning of died, full of days here? In the era before God proclaimed the end, God set a life expectancy for Job. And when that age had been reached, He allowed Job to naturally depart from this world. From Job's second blessing until his death, God did not add any more hardship. To God, Job's death was natural and also necessary. It was something very normal, and neither a judgment nor a condemnation. While he was alive, Job worshipped and feared God. With regard to what sort of end he had following his death, God said nothing, nor made any comment about it. God is judicious in what He says and does, and the content and principles of His words and actions are according to the stage of His work and the period in which He is working. What kind of end did someone such as Job have in God's heart? Had God reached any kind of decision in his heart? Of course He had. It's just that this was unknown by man. God did not want to tell man, nor did He have any intention of telling man. And thus, superficially speaking, Job died full of days, and such was the life of Job. The price lived out by Job during his lifetime. Did Job live a life of value? Where was the value? Why is it said that he lived a life of value? To man, what was his value? From the viewpoint of man, he represented the mankind whom God wishes to save, in bearing a resounding testimony to God before Satan and the people of the world. He fulfilled the duty that ought to be fulfilled by a creature of God, and set an exemplar, and acted as a model for all those whom God wishes to save, allowing people to see that it is entirely possible to triumph over Satan by relying on God. And what was his value to God? To God, the value of Job's life lay in his ability to fear God, worship God, testify to the deeds of God, and praise the deeds of God, bringing God comfort and something to enjoy. To God, the value of Job's life was also in how, before his death, Job experienced trials and triumphed over Satan, and bore resounding testimony to God before Satan and the people of the world, glorifying God among mankind, comforting God's heart, and allowing God's eager heart to behold an outcome and see hope. His testimony set a precedent for the ability to stand firm in one's testimony to God, and for being able to shame Satan in behalf of God in God's work of managing mankind. Is this not the value of Job's life? Job brought comfort to God's heart. He gave God a foretaste of the delight of being glorified, and provided a wonderful beginning for God's management plan. And from this point onward, the name of Job became a symbol for the glorification of God, and a sign of mankind's triumph over Satan. What Job lived out during his lifetime, and his remarkable triumph over Satan, will forever be cherished by God, and his perfection, uprightness, and fear of God will be venerated and emulated by generations to come. He will forever be cherished by God like a flawless, luminous pearl, and so too is he worth treasuring by man.